And welcome to Two Steps Ahead podcast. I'm Son Edom.
And I'm Tara Shiro.
And Two Steps Ahead podcast is basically just us sharing with you the shit we've stepped in so you don't have to, is kind of like what we like to think of it as. And one of the topics that is kind of interesting, and I'm kind of fascinated by it too, because I do teach at a community college. And so I have exposure to students of various ages, whether they're straight out of high school, 18, 19, or maybe they're second career people because they've gone through a career and they've retired, or maybe they're in the midlife crisis and they think they want to do something else. So I'm privy to students of all ages. And one of the topics that keeps coming up is that of dating. Now, it doesn't come up in a classroom setting, but in conversations, before or after,
right,
things like that, you hear people talking about, people they date or people they like, or, maybe you see it on social media, in a relationship with or whatever, and it's not official unless it's Facebook official, stuff like that. So one of the things that is kind of interesting is the dating topic. Now, when you were going through the dating process,
many moons ago.
what was that like for you?
Awful.
Why so?
That was I've been married a long time. So, we've been together 29 years.
Okay,
so it was a long time ago. But at the time, I was in my 20s. I was in high school, college, 20s, and it was painful. Well, not always. I mean, there was fun and there was, typically what it was is that the guys that I liked didn't like me, and the guys that liked me, I didn't like them.
That makes for a bad combination.
Yeah, right. It was a very bad combination. So, and I was just, I was kind of insecure back then, so it didn't really go well. But
see, I enjoyed dating. It was, I don't do much of it now, but it was fun because, especially back in high school, when you think about high school, it was kind of fun because my emphasis was always, if you go out and have a good time, chances are the girl's going to want to go back out with you. Because as long as you focus it on fun. Okay, if you got too serious, if it got too, because I knew then that I'm not marrying any of these people. And so we're probably all going to go off to college someplace else. Probably never going to see them again. And then the advent of social media ruined that, and I see them all the time with other people.
You could unfriend them.
That'd be rude. No, but so in this day and age, and so you bring up an interesting point. So this day and age, so you've got daughters, okay? And so when it comes to the dating today, how have you seen it different from when you dated?
Yeah, I have a daughter and a son, and it's interesting because my daughter and her friends, they're not boy crazy.
Okay.
That I was definitely boy crazy, but my husband's done a phenomenal job with her in that department, and so she's not real needy in that. She's not boy crazy. She has, all through high school, her and her friends have gone out in these big groups, and there's been guys, there's been girls. She's got tons of friends. And she's always just gone out and kind of like these big groups and had a great time. There are some, places where it's the thing, you go on certain schools or whatever, and it's the thing for people to be dating and for, to be hooking up. But I think I don't know that it's a whole lot different. Yeah. I don't know. Do you think it is?
I think it is different because it's moved a lot to online. And what I mean by that is it's easy for people to just download an app, swipe right, swipe left, meet somebody based on how they look. Also, too, it's more superficial that way when you originally getting to know somebody, and it moves quick. Now, I've known a lot of people that have met online. I know a lot of people have gotten married from meeting online.
Me too.
So it's not a bad thing. It used to be taboo. Remember? I remember when I was working at a radio station in Nebraska, I worked with a guy, and then I moved out to L.A. to do L.A. radio, and he got married, and he was coming out to L.A. for his honeymoon to go on a cruise or something. So we were talking, and he was explaining how he met his wife, and then he finally confessed that he met her online. I'm like, dude, why don't you tell me you met her online? He was telling me about their first date experience.
Right.
Because it was so taboo then, and now it's like no big deal. We have apps for it. But I think also, too, it becomes impersonal. I think that what I mean by online, too, is that I have a class where the guys come in, and the first thing they do is get on their phone, and they're playing some video game on their phone. So it's like, it's almost gotten to the point, too, where guys don't know how to be men to date. And then on the flip side, I don't know, but are women mature enough, girls, to be able to go out with a guy who would actually treat them with respect. You know, it's almost like we've gotten to a place in society, just from eavesdropping on conversations and stuff, where we don't know how to date and we just kind of hook up, like you said, and we get together. Or I like you, you like me, now we're together. Or that didn't work out, let's move on. And I think it's a product too of, you know, I think at one time I did the research, the divorce rate was up over 50%.
Yep.
And then commitment isn't there. You can bail out of it at any time. And so I think it's just a unique and interesting time in the dating world because it's almost like anything can go and there's no ramifications and there's a lot of heartbreak. I've mentioned it before on a previous podcast. You know, I went to a football game, USC football game, and they won a big game. It was a Friday night. They beat Utah. They only lost so far, Utah. And so everyone's going to go party and have a good time. And it made me think about how many lives are going to be shattered that night based on the relationship, based on love, based on sex, based on dating, you know, whatever. Or I like you, you like me, let's get it on. And so I think that's become kind of problematic in a way because people don't know how to have a relationship and they don't know how to build the foundations for a relationship. And I see people dating and then 2 weeks later they're not, and there was somebody else. And it's just like a big whirlwind it's like a carousel, merry-go-round from guy to guy to guy. And then also I think sometimes it's hard for people to just be comfortable and confident being alone or being themselves. You know, it's okay, I'm not dating, I'm not going out on a Friday night, I'm okay with that. And I think that shows confidence and maturity when it comes to it. But I don't know, it's just kind of interesting. And the reason why I thought we could talk about it was because maybe you have a different perspective, because I look at it and I'm like, okay, if I was college age today, social media, all that stuff, I mean, it would be difficult. Well, I guess it would be difficult, but yet easy because you could just go on an app, swipe right, swipe left. I remember in high school, we had to actually go up to girls and ask them. I remember one girl asked her out. I walked up to her, and she was kind of a popular girl, cheerleader and all. And I walked up to her. I told my friends I was going to ask her out. And they're like, really? I'm like, yeah. They're like, how you going to do it? I'm going to go talk to her. Like, oh, you don't want to give her like a check yes, check no box? I'm like, no, I'm going to go talk to her. So I walked up to her. I said, hey, you know, would you like to go out with me on Friday night? And she looked at me. She goes, well, you know, I'm going out with my friend, you know, her girlfriend, and this and this. And so she kind of hemmed and hawed. So I knew the answer would be no. I said, okay, that's fine. And so I took the rejection and I moved on. But I got street cred because I actually went up and talked with her. Whereas now you can send a text message. Hey, do you want to go out with me? You know, maybe an Instagram. You know, or what about the breakup? The all-time best line of a movie when it comes to breakup. I don't know if you saw the movie Buffy the Vampire Slayer.
No.
At the end of the movie, Buffy, which is Christy Swanson, she goes to prom or whatever it was, the big dance, and she was supposed to meet her boyfriend there, but the boyfriend ended up taking one of her friends. And he's like, didn't you get my message? And she's like, you broke up with my answering machine? Like the best thing ever. Now it's like we break up through text.
Through text message, right.
Break up through Instagram messages.
Right.
Ask people out through text, Instagram messages, things like that. So it's just a unique world. And I find it quite fascinating, the dating world today.
I would hate to have to date today, honestly. It's something that I thought that this just popped into my head, so hopefully it won't get us off track. But I didn't realize that apparently Santa Clarita is full of swingers. It has a huge swinger population, right? So my friend,
I know I'm moving next,
right? So my friend, she's in her 50s, she's divorced, and she said to me, she says, I had no idea that when I started to date someone that I needed to ask them right up front, are you married? Because she was dating this guy and he was married and didn't say anything, and she didn't think to ask, like, who would be dating if you're married? And turns out he was, and he was a swinger, and there's a huge population apparently in Santa Clarita. Anyway, that's
661 area code, right?
Yeah.
Mark that down.
Crazy. And I guess if you put your keys in a certain way at a certain restaurant on the table, that means you're a swinging couple. And if you put your pineapple upside down in the grocery cart or something, that means that you're a swing. I've heard all these stories about how people find, other couples find each other. So yeah, the whole dating thing is just kind of crazy. And then, so another, I'm sorry, my ADD is showing. So here's another story.
No, that's good. I like that.
Yeah,
I like the stories.
So I was at the gym one time several years ago, and I was in the co-ed section lifting weights, and these guys, there were 3 guys, right in front. You're putting your keys out.
trying to figure out how do I put my keys a certain way. Am I putting my keys a certain way? Is
only
that
us and the camera.
No.
So no one's going to come by our table and pick you up as a swinger. So I was lifting these weights and I'm listening to these three guys talk about this one guy's, girlfriend and how he had to break up with her because she turned out to be a whack job, right? So, and I don't remember what behavior she was exhibiting to have him come to this conclusion, but I couldn't help it. I finally said, dude, and they kind of didn't realize that I was listening. I said, she didn't turn out to be a whack job. She always was a whack job. There were red flags that you either chose not to see or that you're not skilled at seeing, or you chose to ignore them thinking that we're not going to be a big deal. And now all of a sudden you got to get rid of her. And they were laughing. They were talking about how, awful this girl was. So I think, when it comes to dating and relationships, I think it goes back to what is inside us personally and what it is that we're needing and what it is that we're wanting. And that can cause us, if we are lonely, if we're not comfortable in our skin, depending on how many other relationships that we have that are benign, male and female relationships where we get some of our tank filled up from other people. That's going to depend on when we go into a dating relationship, if we can spot the red flags and we're confident enough to say, ooh, no, this is I'm going to not go forward. And so a lot of people ignore the red flags because they don't have anything else. They don't have any other friendships or relationships. Well, it's not going to be that big of a deal. And then it always is. So I think that we're just not, number one, I think we're not comfortable enough in our own skin. And number two, we are not skilled at the red flags. And number three, when we do see them, we ignore them because we think they're not going to be that big of a deal. And then at some point and then number four, we cross boundaries. We either let our personal boundaries be crossed. We go too far when we maybe don't really want to, but we do it anyway. And then at some point we turn around and like, how the heck did I get here? Like, why am I with this person? And then it's complicated to get out of it. Maybe we've already moved in together. I think we're just not skilled in.
So I think it goes back to the people skills.
Right.
We don't have people skills. We're on our phone. We're sitting here on our phone. And everything's on our phone. We don't have people skills to interact. Like I said, I would go up and talk to people, ask girls out, and there was like, what? You do that? Now it's all text message or Instagram or whatever. And I think that the people skills, you start there with just interpersonal skills of dealing with other people, has become problematic. And that leads to relationship issues, which then leads to, like you said, all other kinds of issues.
Right.
So you've been married for a while. What or how or why has it worked? What would you constitute as, how is it that you guys have been able, the divorce rate has been up, like I said, at one time when I researched it was up over 50%. Then there was the whole research of people not wanting to get married because they just thought it was, stupid. And so anyways.
Now it's kind of swinging back towards people getting married.
Swinging back in Santa Clarita, people get married, or just swinging back in general?
Swingers are swinging back.
How did you become so successful? What a part of the relationship made you guys be successful all these years? I could imagine, or I would imagine, it hasn't been, Prince Charming and Snow White the whole time.
Oh man, yet another topic that I did not want to talk about. We've been together. So we've been together 29 years. We've been married 24 of those. We lived together for 5 years. Paid for that dearly in our relationship because living together at first is just not the way to go.
Why? What happened? Like what caused the issues that? Because if eventually you got married, so I guess my question is this: you're living together.
Yeah.
It's bad. Now you're married. Now it's good.
No, it was so.
Not that simple.
Not that simple.
Okay.
Not even that. This is why I'm wearing fur. So for those of you on YouTube can see
Yes.
This is why I'm armed with fur tonight for this podcast. So when we got together, both of us were a mess. Both of us were really insecure. I can't believe I'm telling this story. I don't know. So we met at El Torito. I had just driven into town from Ohio, literally drove my little Toyota Tercel across the country. and took us, 4.5 days to get here. I didn't have a place to live. My parents were already divorced at that point, and so there wasn't really a good place for either one of them in their living situations at the time. So I was looking for a room to rent. So the first, see, I'm all tongue-tied, drove into town. Second night I was there, we went into El Torito, my friend and my husband and his friend were in there, and they sent drinks over to our table.
Classy.
Yep. So we went over to thank them, of course. We were like, okay, let's go thank them and see who they are. So during the conversation, it comes out that we literally just drove into town, from Ohio, and I was looking for a room to rent, and he says, oh, well, I just recently bought this house, and I'm looking for roommates, to rent out the rooms. So a week later, I moved in, and I was his roommate. About 5 months later, we started living together. I moved into his room. And so that there wasn't really and we didn't really like each other. When I first moved in, we were different personalities and kind of argued a little bit as roommates. And then it went to the complete opposite. And so there wasn't really like a chase. There wasn't really a romance. There wasn't really we didn't have a fairy tale beginning. It kind of went from one extreme to the other. So it took a lot of learning during that time, getting to know each other. So then we fast forward, we live together, we get married, 5 years into it. Then, we started having kids right away. Several years down the road, this is the thing, is that we never get away with anything. We think that we stuff our pain. We think that we stuff things that happen to us. And all it does is it grows tumors. And it festers and it grows into these like wounds, right? And at some point in our life, whether it's 5, 10, 15, 40, 50 years later, at some point in our lives, whatever it is that we have been stuffing is going to catch up with us. It never not, if there's something that we haven't processed, it's going to come back and it's going to bite us at some point. And so I was really struggling in the way that we got together, and I'm kind of editing what I'm saying right now because this is like a surprise topic. I don't know if I have permission to share all this, but so I might not share all of it. But I started struggling, and so we had we were arguing a lot, during the daytime, and then at night, all of a sudden, I'm the greatest thing since sliced bread. So that was bothering me. And because we didn't have like a proper dating, we just kind of went from one extreme to the other. I was just having a really hard time. And I'm like, I can't do this anymore. So we really had to work through a lot of, we had to literally go back and kind of redo. Like, how do you redo? You can't put the cat back in the box, right? It's out.
You can't unring a bell.
You can't unring a bell, right? It's done. So, and in full disclosure, neither one of us were virgins when we got together. So I had a history that I had not processed. I had, so we talk about dating, right? So I was very insecure back then, and I allowed interactions to happen because I wanted to be loved, because I was not feeling good about myself. And so someone, wanted to, love me. And I'm like, okay. So I wasn't feeling good about myself. And so then when I met my husband and we got together, I brought that with me.
Okay.
And it wasn't his fault. It was my fault. Because I brought myself, so we were talking a couple podcasts ago about, these hookups, like, what's the big deal? And, it is a big deal because I personally, I wasn't a whole person. And because I didn't take care of it, now when you're in a marriage, you talk about, how is it that you've been together for 29 years and now we're happy. We took, number one, divorce is not an option. And so if divorce is not an option, then the only thing to do is to fight for it, right? Number two, you got to be for each other. And when issues like this come up, which we all have them, we all bring baggage into a marriage, we got to work together. It wasn't his fault. It wasn't his issue, but now it's his responsibility because he he's my husband. And so it's his, not his responsibility like to take care of it, but his responsibility to help me with my issues, because we're a team now, right? And if we want to have a healthy marriage and be together, we got to work together as a team. And so he was really good about it, about giving me, some space for a while. We got some counseling, and we kind of went, I guess I have to tell you that part, otherwise the story won't make sense. So we literally, he was so good to me that he said, okay, I'm going to leave you alone. And we took a break for 9 months in the same house. I mean, we're in the same house, same bedroom, but we took a break for 9 months. And he honored, and I felt so treasured and so taken care of and so loved. And he was so good about it. So good about it. That to be healed so many wounds inside of me. And so during a marriage, we can't be selfish. We can't have our own agenda. We're a team now. We're one, and we have to help each other out. And I had, some serious issues that I needed to take care of, and he was good about it. And talk about being a man and putting your spouse first and helping somebody, heal and that's what marriage is about. And a lot of times, like we were talking about grief, it wasn't his fault, right? And so why should he have to, make these big sacrifices? But that's what marriage is all about. And we have learned, we're still learning humility. We're still learning how to be humble. We're still learning how to put ourselves, second. We just got into a big argument this morning before coffee. That's so dumb to argue before coffee.
I didn't think you did anything before coffee.
Oh my gosh, I don't. And so that's why I was like, what is happening? I haven't even had my coffee and you're already yelling at me. So we're still working on it, but it's the humility. It's okay, this is not about me. This is about us. And we have to put us first. And if you don't do that, then you can kiss it goodbye, I think, in my experience.
So when you guys started the reprocess, because you never had the dating thing, because I'm of the opinion that this is how most relationships tend to go. Mm-hmm. You find somebody, you like them, they like you, you get all excited, you spend all this time together. Typically you go out and you doesn't matter what you do, you're together. And you're planning things, you're doing this, you're doing that. Then as the longer you're with them, you become more complacent. And now you're not planning the little special things anymore. You're not wanting to go out anymore. You're being at home if you're together, or, and then it eventually kind of fizzles into just complacency in everyday life.
That's the death of a relationship.
Yes. But that's how I see a lot of it goes. Mm-hmm. And so one of the things I learned early on, especially, and I don't know why I picked up on this, but I guess I just kind of was observant and saw how these other relationships go, is to keep it going, you have to have those dates. You have to date, basically.
Absolutely.
You have to date.
Absolutely.
You have to have the surprise little things. Mm-hmm. You have to have the little gifts. You have to have the. I remember I'd be times where, and I guess it was back in now everything's so digital with music, but I used to make tapes or CDs, and I'd go put it on the windshield of the car. And so when my, girlfriend at the time or whatever would come out, she'd have a tape or a CD of music.
So cute.
Okay. Or maybe what I would go do is I would steal some flowers from somebody's flower garden, clip them off and go put them there or something, whatever. It was the little things.
Yeah.
And, which is probably lost on society because it seems like romance has gone too. But it was keeping the little things. But then I remember on some relationships too, then you just become complacent. What do you want to do? I don't know. What do you want to do? I don't know. What do you want to do? I don't know. What do you want to do? Mm-hmm. Instead of having a plan. And so it's almost like you have to, we get complacent, we kind of get mundane, and then it kind of fizzles. So it's you come out of the starting gate, you should probably have that same zeal. Now life gets in the way, but you should probably have that same emotion, that same romance, those same feelings of wanting to be with somebody from like you were in the beginning at the end in order for it to work. I know life comes in and things happen and you get kids and whatever and jobs and stuff like that, but it's the newness wears off and then it doesn't become exciting anymore. And then, like you said, okay, people obviously like each other enough or in love with each other enough to get married. Mm-hmm. Okay. And then at some point the relationship goes bad. Mm-hmm. Okay. And now they're arguing, they're fighting. What changed?
Well, I think what we misunderstand, we went to a marriage conference one time, and this I can't remember the exact stages that he said, but I'll try and articulate it enough to understand. Is that he said that there are different stages in a marriage. So there's that initial lust period, which is so wonderful. Everything is like happy and everybody feels good, and we're lusting after each other. And it's based on looks, it's based on how they smell, it's based on their smile, it's based on all the physical features and, the fun that you have together in that initial stage, that initial attraction. Then it moves into, love and marriage and, and the commitment part. But then there's another stage where life kicks in, and it's not that lust stage anymore, but love at that point. I mean, at the beginning it does as well, but love is not. We get confused because love is not an emotion, it's not a feeling, it's not an atmosphere, it's not an activity. Love is a choice, and we get lust and love confused. Love is a choice because if my husband, let's say if he lost his job, right now, I'm going to have to choose to love him through that. And there may not be romance during that time, or there may be, but there's going to be hardship there. There's going to be strain. There's going to be, we have to pull together and figure out what we're going to do, as a team. And that is love. Love is putting yourself second for the other person. Love, not being a doormat, not having boundaries, but love is spelled Give, give, and it's spelled sacrifice. And that's the part that we forget when we get past those initial romantic stages, is that there's this other section of life, and then we move through that, and then it becomes, into the retirement age, and then there's a whole nother, so we have this like idea that love is going to be, or marriage is going to be, this constant romance and this constant state of, the way that we feel. And it's not, because our feelings and our emotions go up and down every day. Like, I'm going through perimenopause right now, and man, there are certain days where you should just not come near me because I'm going to poke your eyes out. So things, our feelings and our emotions are up and down. We cannot trust our feelings. We cannot trust our emotions because we're selfish by nature. That's when love becomes a choice. And that's, getting up in the middle of the night and changing a diaper is a choice, getting, taking care of an elderly parent, and loving them through that. And there's all kinds of sacrifices that we have. And people get tripped up when they start having to make sacrifices for the other person. We don't think it's fair. We don't think that we should have to do that. And then there's this battle of the wills, and there's this, well, he's not doing this and she's not doing that, and he's treating me this way. And we just have to put ourselves aside and before the other person and before the team.
So how do you think in this kind of me first environment that we live in today, kind of seems like society today has moved into like a me first mentality. Everybody gets a trophy, everybody's successful, it's okay if you fail, which is fine. Yep. But it's like, things are about me, and if you're talking about relationship is about giving and about the other person, do you think the society, because we've talked about influences too, people influence decisions we make. People tell us what we should do. People, give us that box again, if we can go back to that box. And it's like, we've got to decide for ourselves what we can and can't do, what we should and shouldn't do. But it's almost like in this me first environment, does that make it harder, you think, for relationships to happen?
Absolutely. It makes it harder for us to serve in a charity. It makes it hard for us to serve the homeless person. It makes us hard to sit with each other in grief, like we talked about in the last episode. And it absolutely makes it harder in relationships because we think that we have to take care of us first. I have to protect myself and I have to get my needs met first. And that is the death of a relationship. Do we have personal needs? Yes. And should we meet the needs of the other person? Yes. But when we have this agreement between the two of us that we're going to be for each other, so I'm going to take care of you and you take care of me. So if I have my agenda, then I'm going to be there for you, and you have that same agenda, guess what? We're both taken care of. And I don't have to be so needy. I don't have to be so selfish and make sure that I get my take and get my part. I don't have to be so controlling because we're both under this agreement that we're there to serve the other. And this is not like I said, it's not a doormat. It's not giving up your opinion. It's not giving up your voice. It's coming together and working it out, knowing that I'm 50% of the relationship. So neither one of us has neither one of us is a controlling stockholder or stakeholder, however you say that. Nobody has 51%. It's 50-50. And so there are times when I may not get my way. There are times when I may have to bend my will or my desire for the budget because we just don't have the money to do that. Or there may be times when, something happens that I don't agree with, but I need to, depending on what it is, I might have to go along with it anyway. So, but going back to the romance part, I have to say that the more we talk about those things and the more that we communicate and the more that we're upfront with each other, the romance happens by itself. And we've been together for so long and we have better sex today than we did 29 years ago. Like the romance is still there. We're still, longing for each other. We still want each other. Like there's no, and that's the thing is that when when we're young and we're in our 20s and we're dating and it seems like getting married, it's like, oh my gosh, that's forever. I can't imagine being with one person. You know what? It is so amazing to be with one person because we know each other so well and we're supporting each other and we're there for each other. And it's a beautiful thing to be loved. It's a beautiful thing to give that kind of love and to have that kind of a partnership.
What about in this day and age of women empowerment? You mentioned it's 50-50. Sometimes you don't get your way. And then yet we have a society that pushes women empowerment, which isn't a bad thing. But women want to be in control. Women want to run the household. Women want to run the relationship. It's what I want to do. Here's just a small example. One time I was at a store and I saw a lady walking toward the door, so I held the door open for her. And she stopped and said, I can get my own door. So I slammed the door in her face and said, get the door. No, but it's that type of thing. It's almost like the gentleman thing to do is now taboo and looked down upon because the woman's empowered enough to open her own damn door. I was just trying to be nice. Okay. So when you have that type of thing, how do you think that plays into the dating world where women want to be empowered, they want to be in control, and they don't want to be that 50-50, or maybe they don't understand that it's a 50-50 thing and they want the guy to do things? Because one of the things that was kind of interesting too that I've been hearing about is that, especially with older women that have been single and maybe single for a while, they get entrenched into their own lifestyle. Maybe they go antiquing with the girls, maybe they do wine weekends away, maybe they do whatever they do. So they want a guy then to come and be with them, because they want the relationship, but they want the guy to come and do the wine weekends and do the antiquing. And the guy's like, screw that, I've got a football game on Saturday. And so then they get upset. There's a big breakup or whatever because there's strife because the guy doesn't want to go antiquing or the wine country because of a football game, or maybe it's just not of an interest. But yet, because of the empowerment of women, we need to do what women say. And therefore, if we don't, it's a problem and the relationship is over.
Okay, so if that's the kind of woman that you're dating, I give you permission to break up.
Is that right?
That's just silly. Honestly, just because you're in a relationship with someone, if you're dating them or you're married, doesn't mean that you're going to have the same interests. And it doesn't mean that if the guy doesn't want to go antiquing, good heavens, why would you want to invite him? Like, that would be a wet sock, right? You can't. I don't know. So no, and that's getting back to, a conversation that we had before. It's like you have your friends that you go antiquing with, and then you have your friends that you go have a beer with, and then you have friends that you have deep conversations with, and you have your friends that you watch football with. Like, you can't expect your mate, your spouse, the person that you're dating, to fill all of those boxes. It's just not, and it's the same thing. Like, if a guy's watching a football game, why are you trying to have a conversation with him when he's watching a football game? I don't understand that. Wait, it's just silly. Yeah. So I think that we, if we don't have enough friend groups, or if we don't have enough people group, we expect the person that we're dating to fill all of the boxes, and they can't. It's exhausting. They have things that you do together, but then you have things that you do separate, and that's okay.
Just want to be known that I am available for beer drinking. If anyone needs a beer buddy, just hit me up, DM me, Instagram.
You're the friend that we say, hey, let's go have a beer.
Yes.
Son would be the guy.
I'm the one. I will go watch the football game with you. I will not go antiquing. I will not go to wine country.
Would you watch Ohio State football?
If they're playing Michigan, and I'd root for Michigan.
Oh, you would not. Are you serious?
No.
We cannot. We got to end this podcast right now.
No, but it's just kind of fascinating the way that, people, especially being older, you start to look at, the dating pool out there, and you start to look at the women out there, and it's like they've been in their life, like their personal life has been a certain way for so long that to make the change to accommodate a relationship is almost like difficult for them to understand and give up because they don't want to.
So when we get into the ideal way to be in a relationship is that so if say we're strangers and we're like meeting each other or whatever, the whole point of dating or the whole point is that I am so filled up within myself and within my relationships, and for me personally with God, I am so filled up that I am overflowing, and now I'm gonna give to you. That's a healthy relationship, right? So if I'm coming to you, let's say that I'm needy and I need to be validated, right? And let's just say, out of all the guys in the bar, you're the one that validates me in the exact way that I need to be validated, right? I'm going to be like, oh my gosh, this guy is like the greatest thing since sliced bread, because you hit that button for me. Like, I need to be validated. I need to be, told whatever. And so you're good with words, and you're like, oh, you're so beautiful. You're so nice. And I'm thinking you're just the greatest thing ever because I'm needy in that area. And now I'm going to think that you're the one because you're hitting that exact need that I have. The thing is that you're not always going to be able to meet that need.
Right.
And so if we're getting into relationships, like, oh, he makes me feel so good, or he makes me, or she, makes me feel so good. Well, eventually they're not going to be able to do that because we all have our own stress that we go through. We have our jobs, we have our families, people get sick. There's all kinds of things that happen, and we're not always able to provide that thing. And so we can't expect our mate to be the one to fill us up. We should be filled within ourselves, ideally, that we're overflowing and we have extra to give, and I'm going to go. We should walk into a relationship with the attitude, I really want to love this person. I really want to serve, this person. And serve doesn't mean, wash their feet and, put on their robe when they walk in the door and hand them dinner. It doesn't mean that, but it means I'm going to be there for this person, and I want to help them be a better version of themselves. But the problem when it goes haywire is that we're so needy that it's like, okay, I got to get what I need. And then it's all about us again. And then if you like say something stupid, then I'm like, oh, I can't believe he's such a jerk. And why would he say that? Because I'm so void in myself that I'm expecting you to be like this person to make me feel better. So at that point, it's not about you. It's about me. We're in this relationship for me.
Right. Yeah. And see, I see that a lot. Where people are in a relationship self-serving.
Yes.
And that's just, and then you have those, it could be either or. The guy could be, the softie. It's almost like this too, if you think about it. A lot of TV shows have the frumpy fat dude and the strong-willed dominated wife. And it's almost like society accepts that, and the women try to adapt that they see on the small screen into their life. That's one of the things that makes me so crazy is that the advertising, the TV shows, the movies, the kid shows, the parents are always the idiots. In the commercials that we see on TV, the woman is always the one to figure it out. The guy's the idiot. I don't know why we're emasculating our men. I don't get it. I don't know why women, we can be strong and men can be strong at the same time. I don't know why it has to be an either or that we have to completely emasculate men in order to be the strong one and to make ourselves feel better. I don't get that part of it. I understand where, women were oppressed for many centuries. I get that part. I understand the history, like where it comes from. But I don't understand why we have to go emasculate the men in order for us to come into our proper
position. And it's such a common phrase. Like just that, I was at a retreat a couple of weekends ago, and it was a beautiful, well organized. They thought of everything. And of course, there's some women saying, oh, a woman must have done this because a man never would have thought about all this stuff. I'm like, why do we have to put the men down? Right. I don't understand that. It's not right. Like, we don't like it when women are put down. So why are we putting the men down? I don't feel insecure or less of a woman if I don't have to put down the man in order to feel better about myself.
So I know a guy, kind of an interesting story. He's dating somebody who's Spanish, from Mexico, and they like to do, and he's a white guy, he doesn't speak Spanish, and they like to go and experience Spanish culture, Mexican culture. Mm-hmm. So they'll go places where the predominant language is Spanish. It could be locally, it could be in Mexico, whatever. But the woman has to take charge because she's the one that speaks the language, and so the guy doesn't. So when they go to these places, it could be a restaurant or it could be, whatever. She has to take charge because she speaks the language, mm-hmm. and he can't. And he loves that because that's a time where she can be, I don't know, say the dominant one, but the one that's kind of in control, leading mm-hmm. things. Mm-hmm. And then other times when they do just kind of regular things, he could be the one in charge mm-hmm. because, and it's kind of an equal balance in a way from that perspective, because when they do like the Mexican cultural stuff, she's the one leading it. When they do the other things, mm-hmm. he's the one leading it, and he loves it because mm-hmm. he thinks it's just the greatest thing, because he has comfort and, first off, he trusts what she's going to do and say. Mm-hmm. If there's ordering food, you look on the menu, it's all in Spanish. Mm-hmm. I don't know what to get,
Right.
So right. She's ordering for him, talking to the people, stuff like that. And he has trust and confidence, and he likes the fact that he can just rely on her mm-hmm. to do that. And he doesn't always have to be the one. But then on the flip side, she likes it because she likes him to be in control and be kind of like the dominant one, so to speak, in certain situations, because she doesn't want to always have to be that. Mm-hmm. And so, like you said, there's kind of a give and take, but it's a little bit of a different give and take because culturally speaking, that's what they do, and they kind of have to, mm-hmm. but they've gotten comfortable with it, and they really like it because it is that give and take. It's that 50-50 that you were talking about.
Right, and you mentioned trust, and that's a big reason why that relationship works the way that it does, because they have a trust. They know that one is not trying to take over, one is not trying to be controlling and to ignore the other person's needs and desires. They have this mutual trust that they're mutually taking care of each other. And I think sometimes what happens is that there are women who we kind of pay attention to the couples that get together. There's someone who is wounded, and then they end up finding or getting together with a rescuer. Someone who is a caretaker rescuer will always find the wounded one, and vice versa, and they'll be like this perfect matchup. Or some people are really talkative and some people are really quiet. A lot of times those two will match up. And also a woman who is aggressive, a woman who is kind of, confident in her skin, invariably finds, not invariably, but I guess sometimes we'll find a man who is insecure. And so he will be attracted to her because she is secure. But then, if they're together for very long, it gets kind of ugly, because then it's like, well, she's just in control, and then she won't let me be in control. And really what's going on there is that the man, oftentimes, because they're coming into this relationship insecure, will give away their power. If there's a vacuum, it could be the man or the woman. But if there's a relationship where there is a vacuum and the other person is not stepping up into their own 50% of the power, the other person's going to probably take over, because there's a void there. And then you get this passive aggressive, like where the other one is angry that the other one's taking over. And it's like, well, so then what? If I don't take over, then no decision is going to get made. Nothing is going to get done. And so counseling is in order. Right. You got to get that figured out. But, ideally, we deal with our baggage that we create in our 20s before we get married. And then we come into the marriage, healthy and whole, so that we can, serve each other. But man, in our 20s, we just do some things that are we think that are innocuous, and it always comes back.
Okay, a little bit on the lighter side. Okay, people always ask, "Oh, what do you like to do?" For dates or whatever. And to me, it was always about the person you're with over what you really did. Like you could be with somebody and you could just be sitting there and doing nothing, and that's a great time. You could be sitting at the park, listening to music, and that's a great time.
A guy will go antiquing. If there's
Yes.
a beautiful woman that he wants,
I won't,
he
but yes.
will go. Oh, you're so full of it.
I'll drink beer.
If there was a beautiful woman and she wanted to go, you would go in the beginning. You would go, but
that's
after
the
a while,
thing.
you'd put a stop to it.
Okay, so it's about the person you're with, not necessarily what you do.
True.
And I remember there'd be times where and before I learned that, there'd be times where you try to impress, I'm going to do this to impress her, the fancy restaurant and, the bouquet of flowers, which I'm a proponent for. You should always do something like, flowers or something, it's kind of fun. But there's people that like, it's about the date. The date has to be this. It's well planned out. I remember in my younger days too, it was about planning the date, and I had fun planning dates. Trying to be creative. Okay, what's the next thing that would kind of be fun to do that we haven't done? What might be a little bit of a surprise? And then it was paying attention to detail, listening to conversations, and picking up like, oh, she likes this. Okay, so I'm gonna try to incorporate that into the date, or she likes this kind of food, this kind of restaurant. And then other times it could be just sitting on the beach, and so it just kind of depends. But so for me, it was about who I'm with over really what we did, although what we do can be fun. So you try to plan things. But for you, what could you share, like a date or two that you remember that was just like off the hook and was like, dude, this was like so cool? Like fun dates, or maybe not even that, maybe just fun dates that you've been on that were memorable, that, were just fun.
I think that the dates that were... So my husband actually, we should always date our wives. The best dates, I think, are the ones when he surprised me. And he would say, we're going on a trip or we're going somewhere. And I would say, well, I don't know what to pack. And he would say, well, just bring. And I would bring extra clothes than I needed because I wasn't sure. 5 suitcases. Yeah, because I'm like, are we going to the beach? Are we going to the snow? Because in California, you could literally do both in the same day. So, I don't know what to wear. We walking, heels, tennis shoes. But he would surprise me, and there would be this like game, on the drive, and when we get there, and that would be I think those are just the fun.
See, and again, it's not necessarily what you did.
No,
it's about the process of it, the surprise, the fact that he thought about something, the fact that it's like he went out of his way to kind of create this date, so to speak, or this trip that you don't really know anything about.
And he's done it with restaurants. It could just be a simple restaurant, date, someplace that we've never been. He'll take me to, to Beverly Hills or something way out of the way. But it's a surprise. It's a, he, like you said, it's the play. So it's the thought, that's the serve. That's the service part of love. That's the part where we're going to really be for the other person, and to take the time to do something, fun and creative, and yeah.
So there was this date in high school. It was a first date, and I decided that we would go to Carl's Jr. I forget why Carl's Jr. was the restaurant, but I think she liked it or something. And of course, I was in high school and I didn't have any money. So we go to Carl's Jr. I think the story was this. She told me a story one time where her grandparents, when they were first dating, back in the 1700s or whatever there was, they didn't have any money. So they would go to like a McDonald's or something, and they'd share a cheeseburger and a cup of coffee or something like that. And that was date. So I think that was kind of in my mind for planning this. But I wasn't a McDonald's fan. So I went to Carl's Jr. And so I had the boom box back in the day with the music, and I had my mixtape, and I put that out on the table. I had candles. I literally brought out candles at Carl's Jr., but they came and made us extinguish them because it was a fire hazard. But we got away with it for about 20 minutes. And so that was my first date.
So cute.
It was Carl's Jr. I think we each had a sprung so we could each have our own meal. And then we had the candles and we had the music. And that was the first thing. And then we went miniature golfing. And I remember it was the one in North Hollywood that's not there anymore. And I remember one where there was a clover leaf was the hole. And I remember she said something at one time that she was Irish. And so I'm like, okay, first date, I'm going to go for it. Hey, so you're Irish, right? Yeah. well, here's a clover leaf. Maybe if you give me a kiss, it'll be the luck of the Irish, and maybe good things will happen. So she gave me a little kiss, hole in one. Boom, right there. Perfect date right there. Carl's Jr., candlelight, music, hole in one.
That sounds like a pretty good date, honestly.
And so, and so it was fun, and even to this day for me, it was kind of memorable because not only was it the first date, but it was like a fun thing, but it was something real simple. And then there's other times where you've planned out like big things. I mean, I've done things where I've rented limousines and done the fancy restaurants and stuff because I thought that's what it had to be. And don't get me wrong, that was great, but it didn't last, nothing, those relationships. And I'm like, I wish I had the money back,
right.
Stuff like that. But so sometimes it's just not even, you don't have to impress the person. It's just, like I said, went back to having fun, doing something fun, being creative, spontaneous. And guys, one of the things that I've learned over the years, if you can make the girl laugh, that's golden.
Absolutely.
You can make her laugh. That's it. And in a good way, like don't be, stupid about it and be purposeful, try to make it laugh, but just naturally in conversation, laughter is a great connection and it provides a good, chemistry there. So that'd be the one advice I'd say. If you can make a girl laugh, you've got her.
Yeah.
And girls, if you can drink beer.
You can drink beer. I think the most, I'm kind of like I love deeper conversation. I'm not the kind of, I don't like shallow,
right.
conversation. So anyone that I can connect with, anyone that we can carry on a conversation, to me, doesn't matter what we do. But if there's that connection there and that heart-to-heart connection, then we could go to Carl's Jr., be just as fun. And
yeah, because there's been times where, like I said, just sitting on the beach, not doing anything, a drive. Yeah. I remember there'd be times where on a Sunday afternoon when gas wasn't like $5 a gallon,
right.
It was like just get in the car and go through PCH, listen to the radio. And then you stop along the way and you pick up a drive-through or something. Other times it's just like, there'd be times just kind of sitting on the front porch. There'd be other times where just the simplest things turned out to be great because it was just the two of us together spending time. And that was the whole point. It was like you said, it was like, even though it wasn't serious, but the committal of the 50-50, just being there, spending time. And a lot of times too, that's all it takes is just the investment of time and being there and a little creativity, a little laughter, a little, spontaneity and
listening. And
that's
not,
a big one.
Not a monologue. Some people don't come up for air. You're like, oh my gosh, I'm going to poke my eyes out, right? So we can have that conversation, and you have somebody that is a listener, and they're going to give you their heart and have the give and take and the back and forth. Those are the.
And then on the flip side, I must admit, I've had some great dates over beer. Over beer. Beer is good. No, but it's just the time being there and the conversation and getting to know people. And that's one of the things that I always enjoyed over life, throughout life, no matter who it is getting to know people, like finding out about them, what, their family's like, culture, history, what makes them tick, whatever. And like you said, it goes back to listening. And so, and that's to kind of bring it back to where we started in this day and age of dating, the interpersonal skills that people have. I think that's becomes problematic, and dating becomes that lustful thing. What can you do for me? I don't want to do that because that's not self-serving. And then you've got, problems, I think. And at least that's kind of how I see things.
And there's also the problem that when we approach dating in a way that, that we're needy in a certain area, we're not going to necessarily be real about who we are because we don't want to be rejected. But sometimes rejection, or not being compatible with someone is a good thing, because down the road at some point we're going to be like, oh my gosh, why did I get in this relationship? Or she turned out to be a whack job, or he turned out to be a nut. If we're confident enough just to be who we are and let them be who we are, and to not hide, that's also a really good way.
I have no problem with rejection.
You don't have to be serious like right off the bat on the first date. Yeah, don't ask all the serious questions on the first date. See if they're fun. See if they can have a conversation. Keep it light.
But see, that's why I like the story that I told about the guy I know that's dating the gal that with the cultural divide, the Mexican and English, because it's such a diverse relationship that they rely on each other, because it's 50% in the Spanish world that he doesn't understand.
Right.
It's 50% in the English world. She can speak English, understand it, but she's, it's not the best. It's not her first language. And so they have to rely on each other to make it work when they go out and stuff. Now, when they're together, who knows? Maybe he drinks tequila and she talks dirty in Spanish. I don't know, but when they're together, it's a different dynamic. But they like that whole idea of having to depend on each other in those different environments. And I asked, would you learn Spanish? He goes, I'm trying to pick up a few things here and there, but he's not in a hurry to learn Spanish because he likes her to depend on her.
Right. Just
like she likes to depend on him, when they're in the, in the other environment. And I think that's awesome.
Yeah. Those are them. And that's really the most successful relationship, is when we can put ourselves aside, when we're comfortable, each person is comfortable in their own skin. When there's somebody that's insecure, or both people that are insecure in the relationship, codependent, passive aggressive, man, does it cause so much chaos and so much dysfunction. And it's just not fun. And so life is just too short. We need to, get counseling if we need to, get whatever we need to do, to get better. Because when you come together as a team, like, it's just, there's nothing better than working well with someone, in a 50-50 relationship. So,
and the other thing I would say too, which is kind of a motto for life that I've learned, is enjoy the ride.
Yeah.
A lot of people want to go first date bedroom. I get that, dude. I get that. I get that. But it's enjoy the ride, because, we've all heard it before. It could be your last first kiss. It could be your last first whatever. Mm-hmm. But enjoy the ride. Enjoy the experience. Don't rush into something just because you want to rush into it. I remember, we talked about this a couple of podcasts ago with my career. I was so hurried to get to the big time of LA that I didn't enjoy my time in Iowa and Nebraska like I should have, working in radio. Mm-hmm. Enjoy the ride of the relationship. Enjoy the first date, mm-hmm. Treasure that moment. Enjoy the second date, and however the process goes. And then you should do that anything in life, but especially in the dating world, because you just never know what's going to happen. And so you should enjoy the ride, because like Aerosmith said, life's a journey, not a destination. Enjoy the ride, and you'll have a lot more fun, I think. The good and bad. There'll be some bumps, but because there's been a couple times I've been stung, and even I think back on him now, I'm like, oh, dude, that really hurt. Mm-hmm. And it still hurts, and I'm still, don't have the complete closure I wished I had. But it's kind of still made me who I am today, and kind of understand it, mm-hmm. and know that when I see them again, run the other way.
Yeah. I think the sex thing just complicates everything. Yeah. It makes it so complicated. Like, I would do it completely different. If I were in a dating position again, I would do it completely different. Yeah. I would just be like, nope, we're going to wait until we get married, because because then you're forced to get to know each other on a deeper level. And you're forced to commit to each other in a different way. And you're forced to have discipline. You're forced to be creative and have fun. And there's a lot of benefit from waiting, because we just think it's like, we think it's like a freedom, like a, revolution, that we can just, do whatever we want. I actually think it's a trap. I think it's more putting yourself in bondage than it is, sometimes literally people are in bondage, but
in Santa Clarita, apparently.
Right, exactly. So, but I think it puts you in a place. Put your keys away. It puts you in a place that it blurs the lines, because it's like, oh, I've been intimate with this person, and now we're closer than we really are. And like, so why isn't he talking to me? Or why isn't she, doing this? Or why? And it's that daytime relationship that is suffering, because there's so much emphasis on the night part. And then you're not figuring out, should I even really be with this person? Or do I want to be with this person? Because you're getting into a routine that is physical, and you're not solidifying, like, can we actually get along? Are we really on the same page? And when we get into that sex part, then it takes that, it's kind of like, okay, well, we're together now.
Right. Yeah.
Right. And then there's these red flags that we don't deal with, because we've seen each other naked. And so,
or you have that relationship and then things go south quickly, and then you wonder, was it because of the sex, or was it because she was just using me, or he was just using me, or mm-hmm. or was it this, was it a one night stand, or whatever the case may be. And then that just complicates everything and causes all kinds of issues and heartache and, mm-hmm. and, thoughts and stuff like that, it's like, so why even Well,
yeah, and then it also causes a lot of insecurity on the female. I can't speak for the male,
Right.
but on the female part, it causes a lot of insecurity. It's like, okay, we're doing all this stuff, so why isn't he asking me to marry him? Why, we're living together? Why isn't he asking me to marry him? Like, what, so you're kind of you're getting the benefits of the full person without committing to the full person. And the heart is what's getting left out a lot of times, because it's an easy way to be close to someone without actually giving your heart and being vulnerable and trustworthy, and working on those core relationship traits that are going to carry you through the bankruptcy. They're going to carry you through, having to take care of aging parents or kids that have mental illness or physical disabilities. At that point, it's your character that's really going to decide if you can handle the storms of life and whether or not you're going to get through it. And when you skip that part, when you get the sex first, and you're not concentrating on really building that relationship, then man, when the storm hits, good luck if that isn't all straightened out.
Remember, first comes love. Then comes marriage. Then comes the baby
and
the baby carriage.
That's right.
There you go. Any final thoughts as we wrap things up here?
The baby carriage just threw me.
There you go.
Yeah. So for for people in their 20s, like, get it ironed out, man, before you get married, before you get into figure out yourself, be comfortable in your own skin. Don't go into a relationship needy.
And drink beer.
Beer
solves a lot of problems.
That's what you're going to leave them with?
No, I would just say
beer?
No, I would just say, for guys, in all honesty, respect the ladies, because that's important. Be a gentleman. Second of all, ladies, respect the guy. We got to respect each other.
Don't emasculate him.
Right.
He's not an idiot.
Respect each other. Don't ask him to go antiquing.
That's right.
Nobody cares.
And don't interrupt the football game.
Don't interrupt the football game. Don't interrupt Ohio State.
That's right.
But no, respect each other. Have fun. Don't rush it. Enjoy the ride is what I would say. And then, you guys can figure out on your own how it, what makes it work. But value yourself too. If you're a guy and the girl isn't valuing you, kick it to the curb. Girls, if the guy isn't valuing you, kick him to the curb. You need to have self-respect, have self-value, self-worth. Make sure that, it's the right situation. You can decide for yourself if the person's right or wrong for you.
Don't ignore the red flags.
Yeah. And then just have
Pay
fun,
attention to
enjoy
them.
the ride. And I think that would...
that girls want to know that they're worthy. Guys want to know that they're worthy enough to slay the dragon for the girl.
Yeah.
So that's kind of where guys and girls are. Girls want to know that they're worthy enough to have the dragon slayed for them. Guys want to know if they're, if they can slay the dragon. So, that was kind of a screech, wasn't it? Wait.
All I want to know is there beer in the fridge. I'll go with that.
Maybe we should just go get the beer.
There's beer in the fridge.
Okay.
Pop it off. No, but again, Two Steps Ahead podcast is what we are. Again, we're just basically sharing life stuff because we've been there a little bit and we just want to share the...
We've been in it.
Yes,
we've stepped in it.
We've stepped in it and we don't want you to. Like we said, we're expressing or sharing the shit we've been through so you don't have to. So you can decide for yourself.
That's right.
What works for you and what doesn't. Social media, Instagram, the show podcast Instagram is Two Steps Ahead Podcast. My personal Instagram is Edem Rocks, EIDEM ROCKS. And then we have the email, twostepsaheadpodcast@gmail.com.
And I am also on Instagram, Tara Hoke-Schiro, TaraHokeschiro. You can also watch us on YouTube and all of the major podcast platforms.
Just go Two Steps Ahead Podcast on SoundCloud, on Spotify, on Apple Music, on iHeartMedia, all the stops, iTunes, and YouTube as well when we got the video coming. And so just check us out. Thanks for listening. Do tell a friend, and we'll see you next time.
Thanks, guys. Take care.